This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Okay, I'm Shawn Darcy, the Associate Director of Market Research at NCBA, and I was at the KLA Convention this week talking about the evolving consumer, or today's consumer mindset of beef and what that means for us. And really it starts with the access to information that consumers have, and that's more than it really ever has been. We see that 70% of consumers have access to a smartphone, over 40% have access to a tablet, and all of this is giving them instant access, so it's always with them, always on their person in order to get the information that they need. And as a result of that, we've seen Deloitte put out a survey a year ago now that talked about how consumers, in addition to taste, price, and convenience, are taking into factors such as social responsibility, transparency, the experience they have while eating, in addition to all of those factors. And what that means for beef is they're filling in those gaps that they're not knowledgeable about with misperceptions, and that's where the beef checkoff has really come in, because we've seen that only a third of consumers are familiar with where their food comes from, but yet over 3/4 are concerned about how cattle are raised. So as a result of that, we want to make sure that we're being part of that conversation. And a lot of those misperceptions that exist are actually things that are happening in everyday beef. So for instance, misperception is that cattle are treated inhumanely, the family isn't involved as much, there's not veterinarian oversight, all things that are really happening with all of beef that's produced all day. So if we're able to get that message out by creating videos and infographics and help educate consumers on that message, that really receptive to that message, and it'll help us get that talking point out. Really what we see is the experts that are doing all of the raising of the cattle are who consumers want to hear from, whether that's in a blog forum that we might host on factsaboutbeef.com, or getting through our NBA program and being a spokesperson on behalf of the beef industry, or even being in your active communities, being active in your communities. Consumers want to hear from the farmer and rancher. They want to hear from a pen rider who's in a feed yard. They want to hear from the nutritionist, the veterinarian, who's in those different experts in each sector of the beef industry that we have. Well, quality of beef is an interesting topic. We actually did a research project over that in the past year, and what we saw is that with quality of beef, consumers are still going over to product attributes. So things like taste, tenderness, juiciness of the actual steak eating experience are how consumers define quality when they think of beef. We are starting to see things like local and grass-fed creep into that conversation, not nearly as much as those product attributes. And a lot of that is, again, going back to that experience or how that product is raised and those perceptions that they have. So those perceptions around the family involvement, the open pastures, of how the cattle are treated, which are all things that are happening with beef that we're raising every day. So are things that we want to look back and promote for all beef, and that it's a quality experience for all beef.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on AGam in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.